This is Andrew Cardozo. I'm speaking with Guy Caron, former deputy. We'll come to that in a second, but I just want to tell you we are in Collabo Cafe here in the Glebe neighborhood of Ottawa. It's a makerspace kind of place, fairly creative. Guy Caron, welcome.
Thank you.
You have been the député de, let me get the writing correct, Rimouski-Neigette, Témiscouata, les Basques.
Pretty good.
For 8 years, from 2011 to 2019. Now, just the name of the riding is so fascinating. It sort of seems to evoke a lot about the history of Quebec and that region. Tell me about it.
It's actually the name of the three municipalités régionales de comté, or MRCs, like the counties.
Right.
Rimouski-Neigette, which is the main center, with Rimouski and Neigette, which is the area around Rimouski, and then you have Témiscouata, and then les Basques.
Right.
Les Basques is actually called this way because we have evidence that the Basque people, the Basque fishermen, came even prior to other Europeans coming back in the 14th, 15th century. So the three areas are actually very distinct, very, very different. And obviously, two of them have Aboriginal names. One of them, Rimouski, means dog house or land of the moose, depending on who you speak to, because it was the land of the Mi'kmaq. Right. And Témiscouata means deep lake, and it's one of the deepest lakes you can find in the city of Quebec.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So take me back to the beginning of your political career. What motivated you to run?
Well, I used to be involved in student politics in the mid-90s, and then when I left that, I thought I was finished with politics. I was sympathetic to the NDP, but never to the point of being active within the party. And what actually had me join is that I had the opportunity and the privilege of being present when Jack Layton gave a speech in the backyard of Elizabeth Arnold's house. She used to be a councillor in Ottawa. And that speech was actually the launching of his bid to become the leader of the NDP. That was back in July 2002. And I was there. And I was really motivated. I was really excited because he represented everything I was seeing, or I was hoping for the NDP, like an understanding of Quebec and this really new way of thinking and bridging the gap between Quebec progressives and Canadian progressives that I hadn't seen before. So I joined the NDP on the spot. I was not a member before, but I became a member. I helped through his campaign, and afterwards I decided to continue my involvement to the point where I became a candidate in 2004, 2006, 2008, and I won with the Orange Wave in 2011.
Oh wow! So there's a good reason to run. If you don't win at first, run again.
That's right. I won at my fourth attempt. And obviously I won my fifth attempt, which was in 2015.
Right.
And I was trying to get back to a 500 average with the last campaign, but it was not to be.
And you ran in the same riding each time?
That's right.
Now, is that where you're from?
Yeah, that's where I'm from. I grew up in Rimouski. I left after I finished my cégep to study at the University of Ottawa in communications.
Okay.
I wanted to learn English as well, which is not an easy thing to do in Rimouski, where like you find it an Anglophone by chance, maybe during the touristic season. But no, I left after cégep. My parents are still there, so I had this link with Rimouski that never left.
Right. So you were there for 8 years, which is a nice length of time. What are your reflections? I'm sure we could talk for hours, but share with me some of the highlights of your time in politics.
It's a privilege. It's truly a privilege to be able to sit in the House of Commons. It's hard to explain for those who were never members, and there are very few Canadians who were actually members in the history of the Confederation. So once you're there and you know that you represent, in my case, 85,000 people in such a large area, in a beautiful area, but you are there, and basically it's a huge, it's a challenge, yes, but it's a huge responsibility. Obviously, it's not very easy in representative democracy to represent such a wide number of people, large variety of views, of opinions, and you do it to the best of your abilities. And I was lucky to be surrounded by a great team that actually helped me through this. without whom I would not have been able to be so effective. I love being a member of parliament. I think I will love being outside of parliament as well, for many reasons. In as much as the experience was great, and there's the opportunity of trying to make a change or trying to bring a change to what you're seeing. It's also frustrating, especially when you believe in democracy, and I've been following politics for a long time. Not only I was in communications, but I was also an economist, and I was working with Parliament even before being elected. So I had a view what Parliament should look like, and it becomes a bit frustrating when you want Parliament to work and you believe that we are representatives of the people, but on the other side, Parliament is not that representative in the sense that all the power, or most of the power, is actually within the executive, within the Prime Minister's office. When you're seeing that what should be the place where members are members and representatives are representatives, which is true committee work, it's also controlled by the executive. So there is very little participative democracy left, I feel in Parliament, and that makes it a very frustrating experience as well.
And do you think that's the same for opposition members as backbench members on the government side?
Most definitely. I would say that we probably have a bit more freedom than government member of parliaments, simply because we can complain and we can do it publicly, and we can go through the media and we can make them look, or I won't say ashamed, but make them look a bit silly at times, which is more difficult for members of parliament.
Right.
And also for backbenchers, there is that perception that they are members of the government, which is not the case. The government is really the members of the cabinet, the Prime Minister's office, and the cabinet itself. Backbench MPs are not part of government, but there's this perception, especially when you hear the speeches, you hear the questions, they're saying our government, our government. They're not part of it. They might hope to be part of it, but they are not. And because there is this connection with what a true Westminster Parliament should be like, there's very little pressure for the government to actually change this eventually. So the Prime Minister's office and the executive always keep the power, and there is no momentum for any reform.
Yeah. Now you ran for the leadership of your party.
Yes.
Tell me a bit about that. Was that a good experience for you?
Yeah, I really tremendously enjoyed the experience. I knew it would be a challenge and it would be difficult, simply because of all the candidates who joined the race, who tried to become the leader. I was probably the least known of the candidates. Not because I was from Quebec, but especially since I was an MP since 2011. The other candidates, except for Jagmeet, who eventually won, I've been MP since 2004, 2006. Right. So they had the network, they were well known. Jagmeet was a different case in the sense that he actually had a youth machine coming from the NDP and from his community as well. But I didn't have that, so I had to build a case for my credibility, my reputation, basically. And in as much as it was very difficult at the beginning, I truly felt I had the momentum at the end. I finished last, yes, but I know from the data we gathered that in the last month, just for September, not only I had the second most number of endorsements coming from MPs in caucus, after Jagmeet, of course, but also I was second at that point in fundraising for that month. So I had momentum, but I just didn't have enough time to pose a real challenge.
So was it good getting out across the country and putting your views to people? I mean, was that more than you'd had a chance to do as a regular MP?
Yes, but I did that in the past. It's not like I came and I started with nothing, because I used to be in student politics. I used to be the chair of the Canadian Federation of Students. Okay. So traveling across the country was something I knew of before, and I felt as much at ease in Quebec than I did in BC or in the Yukon or in Halifax or in Regina. So traveling across the country and getting to my message to Canadians was actually not hindered by a lack of knowledge of the country, because I had that knowledge. But being able to put forth a vision, and especially my challenge with the NDP was to try to bring about new ideas. I mean, One of the complaints I have on the progressive movement is the lack of new ideas. We have good ideas. We have the ideas for pharmacare, for dental care, for basically new programs that will help reduce inequalities in this country. But there's a lack of new ideas of challenging the established order. And this is why I brought about ideas such as basic income, which was challenged by the left and challenged by the right. And that's fine. We need to provoke that type of debate, but having a big idea or big ideas to provoke that debate to ensure that we're not comfortable with received ideas or accepted ideas like sometimes I feel we're too comfortable with.
Yeah. We're just going to take a short break and we'll be back.